Sing parody when they blur the fine. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangle rise. Steampunk Kelly with the center clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow.
Hello and welcome to the Pun Show. And Harry is here first. How you doing, Harry? Oh man, I was supposed to look at something for you. No, that was for Dusty, and I never did. All right, I'll do that tomorrow. Anyway, how you doing today, Harry? Hope things are going well for you over there in the UK. Had a weird thing going on. So anyway, welcome to the Pun Show. It is Tuesday already. Tonight's a big night in Michigan, and I guess a few other states, but Michigan is the one everybody's focused on. There's this race between a DS, what is being projected as a DSA candidate versus a regular Democrat, mainstream Democrat candidate, and the DSA candidate is apparently like way ahead in the polls and going to win, but the regular Democratic candidate is ahead in the against the Republican. I think they hang on. Let me. So Mike Rogers, who's the Republican, is ahead of the Alciad and is behind Stevens in the statewide race. In the poll, 44% of respondents said they would cast their ballot for Stevens or would consider doing so if the election happened that day, and 42% said the same of Rogers. 14% weren't sure. In contrast, 46% said they would back or consider backing Rogers, while 43% said the same of Alciad. The margin of error for the poll is 4 percentage points, so the results for both Democrats. Okay, so there's a little bit of exaggeration or misleading stuff going on here. They're both, it's all within the margin of error. Like it's not like there's a big massive difference. But I wanted to just mention about this. We talked we had when Kamala Harris was the candidate, you had all these people, all these Democrats, all these mainstream Democrats, myself included, that would say vote blue no matter who, right? Because what matters is not just that your guy wins. The time to have that conversation is in the primary. Once you've decided who wins, it's either your guy or the fascist apologist. And at this point, I don't really think there's much difference between an actual fascist and just a person willing to tolerate fascism. You know, like the saying goes, if somebody sits down at the dinner table with 10 Nazis, you have 11 Nazis at the table. So I don't really care whether Rogers is actually the same as every other MAGA or not. I mean, there's plenty to indicate he is. He's got like white supremacists working on his staff, so pretty safe to say that he's at least white supremacist tolerant. And so, yeah, this is where vote blue no matter who has to come back We said vote blue no matter who when we were telling DSA to vote blue no matter who. Well, now it's your turn. You had the primary. Stevens is going to lose tonight. It doesn't seem like there's any question about that. So even Stevens is saying we've all got to get behind whoever wins. So that has to be that has to be your that has to be your take now, right? If you wanted to blame Michigan going down and losing to Trump on Kamala Harris and the people that didn't like what was going on in Gaza, wanted to blame it on her, and they stayed at home and didn't vote, and that's the reason that Trump won Michigan, and it's their fault that all this stuff is happening now. Well, it's the same thing. Vote blue no matter who doesn't only work when your guy is the candidate. Vote blue no matter who means vote blue no matter who. Like right now, this is an existential crisis we are facing. This is not about whether or not the curtains and the carpet go together. This is about whether or not the house is going to burn down. So whoever you are, I don't care what state you're in, I don't care who the candidate is. Right now, it is more about getting Democrats control of the Senate than it is about anything else. So go out, vote for the Democrat. Don't sit there and try and equivocate things. This is not the time to play these games. Not while people are literally dying in detention centers. Not while ICE agents are murdering people on the city streets. Not while we're sitting there just undeclared war after undeclared war, spending hundreds of billions of dollars on these wars while we starve our own children at home. All right? This is not the time. Vote for the Democrat. I don't care who you are. I don't care who they are. I don't care if they're communists. I don't care if they're centrists or whatever. I don't care if they're sponsored by AIPAC. Just don't do it. Just do it. Just vote blue, no matter who. That's what I have to say about that. All right, Max Miller is going to jail. 200K counts. What's this about? Is the 200K connected to Max Miller? Hang on. Something about, I don't know, is this about the robocalls or something? I don't know what is the 200K counts means. But yeah, Max Miller, like, he's not just accused of infidelity or something. Hang on, I gotta, my laptop became unplugged. Sorry about that. So if the Democrat Party don't win the midterms, I think it needs to take a massive look at itself and say this was a massive kick in the teeth. We will be back. Yeah, I just, if we don't win this, then it's just, I don't think it'll matter anyway. If we don't win, then the country is screwed. We'll never recover. We're already on that. Like I said that about 2000, and I don't know if I'm wrong. It's really bad. Max Miller pic of his daughter, 200,000 people downloaded it on a public dump. It's a bad picture. The picture of the daughter whose collarbone he broke. Is it on Twitter? Do I want to see this? I don't see anything on Twitter. So, yeah, I tend to think that people who break their infant daughters' collarbones should not be in Congress. That's just a thought. And he won. Like, first of all, he belongs in prison. Period. Not in Congress. Like, separate. Like, if he wasn't even in Congress, he belongs in prison. I don't, whatever. Anybody that abuses their infant children should go to jail. It's not just about the politics of it, but you can't ignore the politics of it either, because his seat was pretty narrow already, and so is the lead for the Republicans in the House. And so it's just so weird. The whole thing is so weird. Like, when the abuse allegations, like there was the tattoo stuff, but when the real abuse allegations about Plattner came out, not just he got a tattoo 21 years ago and he posted on Reddit that, why don't black people tip, and that kind of stuff, but once it became like, actual abuse allegations, the Democratic Party was like done with him in about 5 minutes. Nobody was coming out and defending him. People like Bernie Sanders, who had endorsed him, came out. It was so weird. There was like this sort of, anyway, there was all these people that were accused, some of the Plattner supporters were accusing Democrats of staging it or whatever. But anyway, for the most part, he was jettisoned like fast. And I had kind of defended him a little bit just because I didn't know that thing was a Nazi symbol either. But he's done. He's toast. And that seat is gone, especially now. If there's pictures that people are seeing, yeah, he might not make it. He might not make it to the elections. Honestly, this is like a 2010 general election importance. If you don't win, there's something really wrong here. It is. They will definitely win the House, and there's a really good chance to win the Senate. But the way that we have the Senate stacked up, it's not that easy. Only a third of the seats are up. And most of this, like a lot of the seats are these really, really entrenched Republican seats. But that Tallarico has a chance to win, that's pretty huge. Like, the Democrats have a realistic chance of flipping Ohio, Alaska, Texas, like states that really should have been out of reach, that are in reach. Okay, here, let me see if Max Miller's own lawyer is the one who released the photo. But so Max Miller's lawyer is the one that released it. Let me see if images. Google must be filtering out the. How old is I thought the daughter was 8 months old. That's so funny. His lawyer released it. All right. So anyway, since I'm in the middle of the stream, I don't want to spend too much time looking at it. I'll see if I can find it afterwards. Oh, come on. All right. So I don't want to type anything more than that. YouTube is weird. Looking back, they probably shouldn't have gotten rid of him, even though he had the tattoo. Anyone could tell that MAGA wouldn't. I mean, at this point, can you really afford to? You mean, how can the Republicans afford to continue defending him? If these pictures are as bad as you say, probably not. And it's hilarious. His own lawyer released the pictures. How is that for stupid? Oh, yes. And since Capital One says it closed Trump's organization accounts after anti-money laundering review, where's frauds are advanced on this? This is actually, yeah, I wanted to talk about this. Why isn't the oversight committee looking into this? So what happened is in 2020 or 2021, the Capital One closed a bunch of Trump accounts, and because they were doing these reviews, which are they're required by law to monitor, these accounts to see if they might be characteristic of money laundering. Like, it doesn't mean that he's laundering money. It's like not definitive proof that he was laundering money, but they're required to do these routine checks on whether people are laundering money or have patterns consistent with laundering money. And the Trump organization had patterns consistent with laundering money, and so they closed the accounts. Now Donald Trump sued them, saying it was for political reasons. And then Capital One's defense is, no, we didn't do that because the reason we did it is that, there were these behaviors consistent with laundering money. And so now Trump, was suing them. And then in their court documents, in their defense, they said, well, this is why. And so this becomes like not only a huge story, but it becomes a huge own goal. Because the only reason that we're even talking about this is that Donald Trump sued them, saying it was about politics. If he hadn't sued them, we would never know this. But that raises the question, right? Like, what, and this we don't know the answers to. And so I was looking into this earlier today. And so there's a few questions I have. One, what was this behavior? What were these patterns? What did they see that made them want to cut it down or, close down these accounts? Two, they're supposed to let they're supposed to notify the FCC if if this is happening. There's certain documents they have to file and everything like that. And this was in 2020 while Trump was still president. So did they do that? That's my second question. Did they file these reports the way they're required to by law? Number three, if they did file those reports, what happened to them? Did Trump's FCC, because that would have been Trump still, did they bury these reports to protect Trump? Like, did he launder money through the Trump organization and then cover up that he was laundering money through his own FCC? So that's the third question. And the fourth question I have is, why isn't the oversight committee asking these questions? Where's Comer? Hunter Biden bought a painting and they flipped out, or sold a painting and they flipped out. Hunter Biden gets a job, they flip out. Joe Biden covers Hunter's truck payment, they flip out. Everything, like anything that like Joe Biden signs a check or makes money doing something, and that requires a whole congressional investigation. Where's the congressional investigation into this? Donald Trump's organization had all these accounts closed because they had patterns consistent with money laundering. That is something that the oversight committee should be overseeing, not overlooking. Like, where are you, Comer? You would be looking into this if it were Joe Biden. But we all know that Joe Biden wouldn't have something like that happen. Remember, this is a president and an organization that was convicted of fraud. Yeah, and they're probably going to confirm Todd Blanche, even though the papers he waved around publicly have no signatures. It's just awkward artwork. I'm going to get into that. I am so pissed about this whole Todd Blanche thing. Kelly, you should make a YouTube short of this. Okay, I will. Thank you. I was thinking the same thing. Make a video of yourself as Grok or Gemini. Someone asks you a question, then you dump bottles of water on the ground, then give them the wrong answer. I like the dump the bottles of water on the ground, because you're saying, like, as AI wastes all this water to give us the wrong answer. I like that. Maybe I should also just go and turn off the power to my neighbor's house too. But the most important thing is success in politics is not changing your own party, it is changing the opposition. And respectfully, the Republican Party is a lot better at that than we currently are. And really what I wish is that our politics were about actually finding answers and solving problems. Mark Wayne Mullen is on the hot seat now because he accidentally said something true. He talked about the fact that some industries need immigrants, which is a fact. This is what I've been saying on this show, for a year now. Just getting rid of immigrants is going to solve problems. Mass deportations is going to cause problems, not solve them. So, he says something like this in a show or in some kind of interview or something, and the entire MAGA world freaks out about it. So, I think we need to get back to where our politics looks at things like, okay, what we have these problems, right? We have this problem where we have certain industries where there are simply not enough people to do that. There's no law that there's no moral law that you can't have immigrants do these jobs, that you can't give immigrants a pathway to citizenship. Why can't we? What's wrong with that? But because, now you got these people that have been all inflamed to be anti-brown, they hear that and they freak out. So we got Chaco Millie. It is cute seeing naive American think both parties don't serve the same American empire. Why do you think both parties support Israel and bomb middle? I'm not gonna go into this. I got another idea. It'll take seconds to find the emojis. I want to mute someone in the chat. Send Kelly $5 for 5 minutes, $10 for 10 minutes, $25 for 24 hours, $100 to ban forever. Don't cry, MAGA. It's capitalism and cruelty. I could get behind that. Chaco, I'm looking at all your comments and just blowing past them because they're all a false dichotomy. There's no, you are clearly not a person that wants to engage in a rational conversation. My views on the current asylum system across the Western world are very well disposed on this channel, but we need to look at the legal immigration side of it as well. Okay, first of all, you see people comparing England and the US, which are very, very different situations. But right now, even what your issues in England are and what our issues are, what's legal and what's not legal, are so completely disparate that it's hard to have that as a comparable conversation. Like calling the Western world saying it's a Western world issue. Like right now, okay, let me. Like, there are just such differences between the two. It's even. I'm trying to figure out how to even get on top of it and talk about it. Right now, I'll just tell you what I know about the U.S. immigration. Right now in the U.S. we have more. If we have more illegal immigrants working than we have people who are unemployed. So if we just got rid of every illegal immigrant, just deported every single one of them, and magically waved a wand so that every unworking American would be able to fill those jobs that they were doing, we would still have unfilled jobs. So that is, to me, just a basic math problem. We do not have the ability to replace all the illegal immigrants. And they've done a number of studies on it, and it comes out to about 44,000 American jobs that are lost for every 500,000 people you deport. So if you're deporting 10 million people, that ends up being another 500,000 Americans that lose their work. And that's not even counting all and that's because you get all the farmers that lose their farms and the cascading effects of that. So I don't think it's about whether or not we have immigration laws. I think it's about what those immigration laws are. And we're going in the wrong direction. We're making it almost impossible for anybody to immigrate to America. There are the number. It's getting harder and harder and harder. You basically either have to have at least a master's degree or a family member that lives here, and even then, it can be very different. It can be very disparate. The average wait time for somebody from like Nigeria, if they have a family member and they talk about chain migration, is like 40 years. For the average person from UK, it's like 7 months. The population of the United States is aging rapidly. You're not going to replace working age people without immigration. Legal settlement is at the lowest rate in year, and then we wonder why people are trying to get illegally. There is very limited legal routes for people in impoverished countries. Yes, I agree. We need to have more avenues. We need to make it easier, not harder. Yeah, I don't want to be condescended to by somebody who's ignorant, and you don't know what I think. You didn't come in here asking any questions. You just came in here making all kinds of assumptions, Chaco. Just go away. Go away. Either that or participate. But just coming in here and yelling things without even finding out what I think is not mature, and it's not a way to engage. So it just bugger off, dude. Okay. All right. Bye, Chaco. You're not invited here anymore. If things are going so good, I wouldn't even be talking about politics. I never did before this orange piece of poop took over. Okay, MAGA claims that if they got rid of all the undocumented, they'd suddenly have a lot of homes to live in and it would solve the housing crisis overnight. And yet, what undocumented has a mansion? It's like this goes back to the whole Schrodinger's immigrant thing, you know. It's like they somehow they're getting all this free housing and taking up, they're all filling all our hotels and everything. And we're sitting there, we're paying them to live in all the hotels. Remember that? But at the same time, they're buying up all our houses. And it's like, how are they buying houses? Who's giving them these bank loans? Like, immigrants aren't buying our houses. I'm sorry. And it's not like there are as many as they like to think. Now it's like I see people saying like there's 100 million illegal immigrants living in America, like a third of our population. Really, dude? It goes back to the whole Donald Trump auctioning thing, where he's like, so there's 5 million people that Joe Biden led over here, and it's actually 10 million. Some people say it could be 15 million. I actually believe it's 20 million, so it's really 30 million, and it's like he just keeps doing this thing where he just keeps building up the number higher and higher, and it's all fake. The truth is there are about 4 million more asylum seekers that came over while Joe Biden was president. If you count the asylum seekers and the gotaways, that doesn't account people that self-deported for various reasons while Biden was president too. They don't track those. Which not everybody that's self-deported is under threat, They weren't never planning on coming over here permanently. They like come over here seasonally and work a job, and then they go back home. But the asylum issues are because Joe Biden was following the law on asylum. These are things, I'm not saying that they aren't issues. I'm saying that they are issues, but we have to look at them honestly. And like, instead of just blaming things and yelling mass deportations and locking up children in confinement camps that are, would be a war crime if they were prisoners of war, we should talk about, how do we modify our asylum system so that we can still honor the system of asylum without letting people take advantage of it. And there are people that take advantage of it. There are also people that are legitimately fleeing violence. Harry raised, anybody that wants to live low income housing, raise their hand. Harry wants to live in low income housing. Based on the World Cup, immigration is working pretty good for Europe. Most of their soccer players look like they're from someplace else. I haven't studied much. I always hear about, there's this, just look at Europe, like there's MAGA scare tactics on immigration in Europe. And so, Harry, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what is actually real versus what is fake versus what is just Islamophobia. Like there's this kind of, anytime a Muslim commits a crime anywhere on earth, it just proves to some people that all Muslims are violent. Immigration is and isn't working in Europe. It was until the European Court of Justice got too big for its boots and have decided to enforce unusually and strict. So you're saying that England is getting too strict on its immigration enforcement. They're doing the whole MAGA Trump thing. Make Great Britain great again. I wonder if they're going to try that, which they very rarely do on other things, except, for example, the UK continues to flog off the ECJ in regards to our prisoner voting laws. What is the ECJ? I don't know what the ECJ is. You know far more about American politics than I do about British politics, that's for sure. Regulated immigration allows you to build the correct amount of housing. Immigration and housing really have nothing to do with each other. Because immigrants aren't typically the ones buying the housing, and the issues with housing have nothing to do with immigrants. The issues with housing have to do with one, after the housing bubble burst in 2008. Since then, new housing has gone down. Like, people just aren't building houses at the same rates. Number two, there's this whole NIB, not in my backyard thing, where neighborhoods don't want new homes or want apartment buildings or anything where there's like low cost housing being built in their neighborhood, because that's going to lower the value of their houses. So there's all kinds of red tape and stuff that's keeping people from being able to build houses. There's the fact that you have these companies that are like buying up. There's like they're called like starter homes. And these are like the houses that are in the bottom 20%, that are typically what you would buy when you're starting off your family and stuff. These are the cheaper houses. And so you have these companies that are buying them above market value, so that the people that can barely, they're buying the best house they can, they're offering as much as they can. And then you have these corporations that are paying like 20% above market value. And then that raises the value of the house, and then they just rent it out. And so they collect rent that pays, and then the family that would have bought the house and been paying the mortgage to put equity in the house is now just paying rent, and they're not building wealth. And so then they're not able to have that house appreciate and build wealth on it and get equity in it, and then sell it and move into a better house. So all of these things together are a big part of the housing problem. And that's why the housing bill that they actually passed, which was one of the few things where the two sides sat down, worked together, and worked out a solution to real problems together, was actually pretty good. It wasn't perfect, but it did a lot of things. And it addressed all of those issues in different ways. Some of them maybe not perfectly, but at least it's an attempt. And it's what we need our Congress to do more of: look at issues instead of sides. We need to look at immigration as an issue, not as a for or against Trump, or for or against immigration. We need some immigration, like we just do. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. We do. We do not have enough Americans to fill the jobs in America. So we got to get them from somewhere. That reminds me of, this is the roofing season and house building season. I haven't seen a single white guy, let alone a fat MAGA, on a ladder this summer. And I see a lot. Yep. And that's, what is it? I want to say 30% of construction workers and 40% of roofers are undocumented immigrants. And here's a story for you. All right. Honest story. I had some hail damage to my roof. And, I got some different bids on it. Went to this one guy. One thing when you're bidding, everybody's going to give you the same bid. So this guy, which actually ended up working out for me, he told me, look, everybody's going to give you the same bid. They're all going to do the same thing. They're going to wait, and they're going to see how much money your insurance company is willing to cover, and that's what they're going to charge you. He's like, I'm just going to be upfront with you. I'll do this. I'll do it for that. This is what I think they'll probably end up charging. But what I'll do that they won't do is I'll paint your house for free. And so I was like, okay. So I did that. I went with that guy, got my roof done and my house painted for the same price as everybody else was offering to do my roof. So he does that. He agrees to the deal. Then he disappears the day they're supposed to be doing the roof, and he's got the tiles and everything, and this guy is just gone. And so, he's got these guys that, only one of them speaks English, are up on the roof and they're like tearing everything out to put on the new tiles. And then they're like, I don't know where he is. We don't know where he is. So finally, I don't know. I never did talk to him again. I don't know what happened to him. His parents or his wife's parents came and they did the house painting for us. But they did a wonderful job. But it was going to rain that day. And so these guys that were up on my roof, who I assume were not here legally, were like worried about me. They're like, dude, you know, it's going to rain. And we don't know what to do. So anyway, I ended up paying them the money I would have paid him. And, you know, they ran out, they got the tiles, or they, you know, the shingles or whatever, tiles, tingles, what are they called? Shingles, I guess. They went out, they got the roofing material. They did the whole thing in one day. Never had any issues with it. Like they basically saved my house. So thank God for illegal immigrants, because without them, my house would have been destroyed by the citizen that abandoned me. So I mean, like this idea that somehow immigrants are bad people because they didn't migrate here legally, it's just BS. They were more worried about my house than the guy that was the citizen. Also, the percentage of people that were getting their asylum applications approved under the Biden administration went down, not up. Yeah, I actually, a friend of mine is an asylum officer that I've been trying to talk her to come on the show and talk about this. The whole asylum process is a big thing. Most people don't understand the asylum process, but part of the approval rate thing going down was there's some different stuff involved in that, but a significant there's a better chance that you're going to have a legitimate asylum claim rejected than an illegitimate asylum claim approved. And the cost to the person that gets it rejected, there was a family just recently that had their asylum claim rejected. They got deported to Guatemala, and the couple got murdered within like a few weeks of going back. Rents go crazy with less supply than demand. You had a lot of people with no rental agreement paying cash, booted so they could rent for twice as much. It happened. Where is your evidence of this? Like this is like the kind of claim that people make without any backing to it. But the percentage of houses that are rented, like there's a number of houses that are rented, right? Only a tiny percentage of houses that are rented by undocumented immigrants. Not significant enough to dramatically affect the cost of rent. So people that own a house didn't see it, but people that own a house had different kinds of cost increases. Is this because Trump is lecturing Europe again today? No, I don't know how we got off on this tangent. Also, anyone who is any good at football moves to Europe. It's a pretty done deal. And then they move to the US or Saudi Arabia when they want to retire. But they want to earn ridiculous amounts of money doing it. kind of like America and basketball. Like all the basketball players, when they get to their end of now you got a bunch of basketball players that go to play in Europe at the end of their careers. So what happens in Spain? They rent to tourists because they pay way more, and the government has to compensate for that, or you get people on the sidewalk. I don't know anything about Spain. European courts serve justice. Now it's funny because Reform UK love to say unelected judges are enforcing our laws. If you can tell me one British judge that was elected, then I'd be intrigued to know who it was. Oh, so you're like joking that all the judges are unelected? That's one of the issues with capitalism: unchecked nepotism and implicit bias. I guess that's actually two issues. So what's one of the issues? What is the? I don't know what the two issues are. Deciding not enforcing our laws. We buy homes for cash. Sign on telephone poles. Yes, the corporations. Yeah, that's the other thing, is they have all this money, so they're just buying homes. You know, you don't have to worry about all this paperwork and stuff. Can you be out by tomorrow? Yeah. I got calls from house flippers. I don't have an issue with because they're still selling houses. I have a friend that actually he's actually pretty good with his hands. he started off as an HVAC specialist. Then he got a plumber's license. He got an electrician's license, and he buys these houses for like, about a third of what they're worth. He does all the renovations by himself, or with, I guess he's got a team or something. But he's made a lot of money. I think he's a millionaire now, just by flipping houses. He's got like houses that he rents and houses that he sells. Mostly, I think he sells them. I got world blocked. I still remember when I was a kid on the block. Were you a new kid on the block? Neighbors are dying off. Houses are getting bought and rehabbed and flipped. Yeah. That's like another thing that was happening. I don't know if it's still happening. It depends on where you're at. But, like the whole gentrification thing, which has been there's all of these issues that go together to make housing prices go up. Illegal immigrants have virtually nothing to do with the price of housing or rent. The new homeowner also takes out one family home and segments it into 5 apartments, and it's like tooth decay. The next and the next and the next and the next. But that's not done by an undocumented. That's the capitalist thing. Well, you do have, like undocumented people where like several families will live together in the same house to save money, which is one of the reasons why you can't, like, they act like all 4 million undocumented immigrants each have their own house or something. Lots of people rent rooms in a house. Now, if you can get 2 times per room, you don't think that raises house prices? It surely did. I don't think that's why the housing prices are raised. I don't think that every house has is renting out 2 rooms to people. The reasons that housing prices have gone up have been well documented and well researched. The main reasons are, 1, not enough new houses being built, as I said. Number 2, nobody wants them built in their neighborhoods. And number 3, the low-cost housing is being bought up by corporations. These are not theoretical. These aren't just me spouting. They're like, there's been study. There's research on it. It's only money for a few people if the neighborhood crumbles. Neighborhood houses were about 200K 20 years ago, 980K now. Because I live in a blue state, I don't know what all of that has to do with anything. I live in Texas. I bought my house 14 years ago for $78,000, and now the state of Texas is telling me it's worth $340,000. And I'm not renting it out. I'm not renting out rooms to anybody. Problem is at those houses prices where you're going to move to, when I sell, moving overseas to retire, how about 6 or 7 years to the pension? It's not crazy government policy, dude. I hear you, but can you like actually look and research what you're talking about first? Because I'm trying to explain to you what I have learned from researching this very issue. All right. I'm not arguing that housing prices aren't going up. Everybody knows they're going up. That's why they work to solve the problem. But why they're going up is not because illegal immigrants are renting out rooms or whatever. Meanwhile, in France today, the big concern, do padded bras give you an aerodynamic advantage riding a bicycle? Like, are they the pointed kind? I can see the like those old ones where they had the nipple points. I watched a video today on Iran using psychology experiments against Trump. Oh, interesting. I wonder if I wish I could be a fly on the wall when he would watch those Lego videos for the first time. I bet there was like a lot of ketchup being flung. Iran has teams of psychic experts on Donnie. Example, the Minnesota water hack. They knew a psych profile would go after walls and Americans instead of Iran. It's easier. Played like a paranoid violence. And that was just, to me, is just, how could there weren't okay, hang on. I gotta close this tab. They and they absolutely played him with this whole thing. But like, to me, like, I just could not believe there was an attack by a country we are at war with. There was an attempted terrorist attack on the United States by that country, and his reaction was to blame the governor of the state, on one of the 7 states, saying it's his fault. How, like, can you imagine if Joe Biden had started a war with Iran, and then Iran attacked Texas water supply, and then Joe Biden blamed it on Greg Abbott? Do you think that Fox News might have covered that a little bit differently? France decides what they want to riot about every couple of days. I mean, they're so stupid. They were rioting that they were winning the World Cup at the time. Hey, Chicago does that when the Bulls win when the Bulls win. Of course, it's been a long time since they've had a riot. Unchecked nepotism and implicit bias, capitalist issues. They are more broad, I suppose. But capitalism funnels all the money to the interests of the rich. I think of the things that I was specifying, all of those actually can lay their feet at capitalism, right? One, people don't want to invest a lot of money in new homes because of the collapse, right? Number 2, you have the people don't want to have new homes built in their area because it's going to affect their housing prices. And number 3, the reason these corporations are buying up all these homes and renting them out is because they make money on it. So one house within 2 miles that has 11 cars in the driveway, that house is housing illegals, and it's one less. First of all, don't ever call them illegals. I hate that term, and you get like a pass on this one. But people that use illegals as a noun get banned from my show. I find that a racist term, and it's extremely offensive. And you can talk about illegal immigrants if you want, but do not noun illegal or you get banned. That's number 1. Number 2, this one house that has 11 cars in the driveway is not responsible for housing prices across America. I'm not in denial, dude. I'm just not indoctrinated by anti-immigrant rhetoric like you are. How many of them do you think how many houses do you think they have? There's 330 million people in America. And you're sitting there and you're talking about 11 people living in one house. Or 11 cars. So how do you even do the math on this? There are at most like 8-9 million illegal immigrants right now in the country, if you count the ones that have been deported. How many houses do you think they have? And what percentage of houses do you think that constitutes? Like, this is just a basic math thing. If you're talking about 11 people in a house, and you're talking about 8 million immigrants, that's less than 1 million houses out of, I don't know, a couple of 100 million. And then how is that driving up the price? It doesn't even make sense. They're living together to save money. How does that make the price of the house go up? You don't need 1 million houses for 1 million people. I'm pretty sure the average is 4 people to a house. So you would need about 250,000 homes per million. If a turtle has hands, is that how the turtle wax is applied? I would say ask Mitch McConnell, but you know, he's dead. Is this Mitch McConnell day? Is this the day that he's supposed to like die? I think we're you know, like, this is the last day that Mitch McConnell can be alive. I got to hop in the shower. If I get back, I'll be back before I leave. If I got time, I'll be back before I leave. Don't hop too much because you might slip. It costs so much to build, and lots are too much. We're builders. Unless you're mega builders, aka developer, you can't make enough money, and sellers don't want to sell, and they have a high interest rate. 1933 average wage $4,500, average home $3,900. I'm not sure what. Oh, you're pointing out that the average cost per home was less than a year's wage in 1933. Not sure how relevant that is to today. I mean, obviously, you know, nowadays people are the difference is massive in terms of, you know, like wage to cost. And I think that has a lot. There's a lot of reasons for that. I think back in 1933, you weren't taking out loans to buy your house; you were buying your house with cash. But I also think that housing has become significantly improved. Count Binface in my country is amazing, so he promises in his manifesto that he will cut your taxes and raise everyone else's. That's an idea. He will build at least one affordable house. He will bring back KFAX. He will reduce net migration by tying nets more securely to the ground. He will replace border force agents with GP receptionists to reduce the amount of people getting in. That's funny. That's an idea. Maybe that's what we just, instead of Border Patrol, if we replace Border Patrol with DMVs, and then like every immigrant would be like, I'm not going through that shit. It's not worth it. It's a total lie anyway. You can't put 11 cars in the driveway. I just, these people with their straw man arguments. If you don't want illegal immigrants, you shouldn't have lied their countries in the past. Looted their, yeah. And there's a lot of truth to that. I've spent several days covering this, but a lot of these countries in Central America and South America are just a result of our interfering in South American politics. For some reason, this comes to mind, the Panama Canal. You want a history lesson for today? The Panama Canal exists strictly because U.S. policy. And so there was this guy, what's his name? There's a brokerage firm that he started that can't think of Morgan Stanley or one of these guys. I forget which one. Hang on. Let me. So the Panama Canal. Trying to figure out his name. I'm trying to remember his name. J.P. Morgan is who I'm thinking of. So what happened is France, there was a French company that started building the Panama Canal. And they got like 90% of the way done with it, and they ran out of money. They just ran out of money. So this guy named J.P. Morgan, you know, of J.P. Morgan fame, J.P. Morgan says, hey, let's buy this and finish it. So, and then they were going to build a canal in a better place. And I want to say, like maybe Venezuela or something. I can't remember. But anyway, they were going to build. There were already plans for a U.S.-led effort to build a canal in a different place, in a different country. But this guy was like, hey, let's just finish this one in Panama. Now, at the time, Panama was not a country. Panama belonged to the other country. And so the U.S. actually sponsored a coup in this territory that is now Panama, so that we could buy from Panama this, or you know, we bought the rights to finish the Panama Canal, and then we had this new country, Panama, that you know we sponsored a coup there where they declared independence, and then we put in our little puppet president, and then we finished the Panama Canal, and it was all like J.P. Morgan was behind all of this. And so not only does the Panama Canal exist because of corrupt American politics meddling in South American affairs, the nation of Panama does. So anyway, you can look into that if you want. What was the country? Hang on, let me. Where we were. Nicaragua. That's it. We were going to build the canal in Nicaragua, and it actually would have been, situated better. But J.P. Morgan had bought this company, and then he bribed the key vote. Like there was a whole thing. Nicaragua would have to give us permission to get out of our contract or something like that, and there was some kind of vote in Congress, and so J.P. Morgan bribed an American congressman to change his vote, which changed the law, which allowed us to build the Panama Canal. So anyway, I don't remember all the details, but if you're interested in this, go ahead and look it up. It's fascinating just how corrupt this whole process was, and we don't even talk about and then we got the rights to the Panama Canal. FDR, I think, is the one that bought it. Was FDR or Teddy? One of the Roosevelts bought I think it was Teddy, bought the Panama Canal. And then we had and then we had the rights to it for 100 years. This is the thing that then they finally got out of it, and Trump's still pissed about that. Anyway, it's interesting. They would depend on how long your driveway, or if you can park in the grass, or how big the cars were. Maybe they're little tiny cars. If your driveway is a half-mile long and you have a 4-acre property and you're having a Christmas party one night or a family reunion, you might have 11 cars in the driveway on occasion. Yes, please. DMV workers are to replace all border security agents. That would just, I mean, like, it'd just be like crickets. Like, you just sit there and they'd be, what do you want to do today? I don't know. You want to play a game of Foursquare or something? 11 cars sounds like a house party to me. Summer barbecue, perhaps. The monster raving loony party are the best. They promise to reduce NHS waiting list sizes by reducing the font size. Hey, there's an idea. It's like the joke, Donald Trump is such a great president that my car used to hold, $50 worth of gas. Now it holds $75 worth of gas. I'm familiar with the Panama Canal because the UK government's got in a hissy fit that the French were helping build a canal and they weren't having any ownership of it. And because they had a lot of colonies in the Caribbean, they were not very happy that they weren't involved. I can see that. Britain was supposed to be in charge of everything. Sounds like how we got our hands on Hawaii. See, what happened is once we hit California and the West Coast and Manifest Destiny hit a wall, we're like, what are we going to do? Well, we just expanded south. We expanded west. And a lot of people with enough money to have all the cars, whoever they're visiting is rich enough to have a 200-yard driveway on a large piece of land with a big house. Doesn't sound like a safe house. I always learn something listening to you. Very interesting about the Panama Canal. It's fascinating. Like, if you start looking into all the different things, all the different ways we meddled in South American politics. Like I've talked before about the whole Guatemala thing. There are just, I think it's 48 different governments in South America that we have directly or sponsored, coups of. Like, we've either thrown them over directly or indirectly. Like, we've had our hand, we meddle in it. And when we're sitting there and we're overthrowing different countries every couple of years, and it's not like we're done with that. Donald Trump just did it again with Venezuela. Yeah. And so we keep and like with Guatemala, that we overthrew a democratically elected government and replaced it with a despot that stuck around for like 40 years and just destroyed that country. Was just like an evil person, but at least he let United Fruit Farm or United what is it? United Fruit or whatever. Chiquita. They're called Chiquita now. United Fruit Company. It was called at the time. They changed their name to Chiquita because USC got too famous for what it did in Guatemala. But yeah, like, if you weren't here, Guatemala used to have, like, they were the poorest country on earth. They were so poor that the average Guatemalan farmer made like 1/40th of what the poorest black people in America made. And the poorest black people in America in the 50s were not making much money. I mean, they were making so little. That's why we had a war on poverty. All right. But they were making 40 times as much as the average Guatemalan farmer. So then the UFC, not the Dana White one, but the banana company, they owned like 90% of the country of Guatemala. They owned the roads, they owned the power structure, they owned the phones, they owned everything, not just the government. Like, they owned the actual island and 80% of the farmable land. But they weren't farming all the land. They were only farming a small percentage of it, because if they farmed too much of it, then the price of bananas would go down. So then this guy came along, can't remember his name, you can look it up, but he came along and he said, you know what I want to do? I want to like use what they declare their tax value is of some of this unused land and sell it to people so that they can, and on loan so that they can farm their own land and sell their own bananas and make a living off of it. So he got really popular. He won the election. And then these guys, the Dulles brothers, one of whom was head of the State Department, the other who ran the CIA at the time, and who also happened to be on the board of the United Fruit Farm, or United Fruit Company, they said, oh, this is communism, this is communism. And if you let Guatemala fall, then all of South America fall, and then we'll all be communists. And that became the domino theory, which was like the predicate for the entire Cold War, was based on this screaming banshee nonsense because a guy won an election. And it was going to cost these Dulles brothers a few bananas. So what they did is they sponsored a coup, a CIA-led coup, when one of the dudes was like head of the CIA at the time. So they sponsored a coup. They overthrew the democratically elected president. They installed a despot dictator guy that ruled for like 40 years and was like really, really evil and caused all kinds of problems. And that's why we still have people fleeing Guatemala and asking for asylum. It's because of the Dulles brothers, the one who the airport is named after. The ones who predicated the entire Cold War on this philosophy that if you let anybody left of Hitler win an election, then the entire world is going to fall to communism. Anyway. Interesting story, isn't it? I always told you the more European American became, the greater of a country it became. The more European America became, the greater of a country it became. I mean, I think without it becoming more European, you would have never gotten Hawaii. You're talking about our imperialist tendencies. Yeah, that's true. I won't argue with you there. Hi, Harry. What do you think about the Iranians interfering in U.S. water systems? Well, I think that A, it's bad. B, I think that I wish we had a president that would actually defend the United States against these attacks instead of attacking the governor for it. And number three, I feel like we've kind of lost our ability to make any complaints about it when Donald Trump is threatening to bomb their water systems. Like, if they're doing what we're threatening, it's kind of, it's like, I'm going to punch you in the balls. And then you punch me in the balls. And then I say, hey, you just punched me in the balls. And you're like, well, you were going to punch me in the balls. And kind of hard to complain about the war crimes when you're threatening them. I have about 30 before I go. Awesomeness. Tell the Iranians to lower my water bill. United Fruit, Chiquita, is still infamous today. One of the biggest employers in Panama. Red Scare, Dusty says, woo! Come is some. What is come is some? I never did get, all right. So, I don't know what, I know what lorem ipsum is. I don't know what come is some is. Across the country, water systems are underfunded and ran on shoestrings. Yep. Hey, it's Colonel Holes. I'm no DSA supporter, but they don't bend their knee to Israel, and I respect that. Oh, communism. Oh, communism. I see. So, all right. Now, this is, I almost forgot. Wanted to talk about something today. Todd Blanche looks like he's going to get the go-ahead for Attorney General. And I think that's just disgusting. I think there are things that with Todd Blanche that are so reprehensible that even considering him for Attorney General, even putting him up for nomination, much less getting out of committee, much less getting approved, is ridiculous. We are talking about the worst nominee in the history of America, and easily, if he gets approved, the worst attorney general. So I came up, these are just 8 reasons, 8 different things that I think are completely disqualifying. So the first thing is he still considers himself Trump's personal attorney. And the attorney general does not work for the president. And I know there's this whole unified executive office stuff and all of that, but when you take office, when you get sworn into a role, you get sworn in taking an oath to the Constitution, not to the president. And so when the president of the United States tells you to do something unconstitutional, your choice is to the Constitution, not to the president. But he considers himself first Trump's personal attorney. And not just in terms of what he's being asked to do, but also in terms of what he's done, choices he's made already, where he has chosen the president over the country and over the Constitution. I'll get into that a little bit more in some of the subsequent points, but the fact that he said he still considers himself to be Trump's attorney, that right there should have been the last question he was asked in his hearing. Okay, the second thing is he was willing to prosecute somebody. I'm talking about the Olympian David Hearn, who never even committed a crime. Like, it's not just there was a crime that was committed and then he was willing to prosecute the wrong person for it. There was never even a crime committed. And he knew that. They didn't like uncover new stuff. It's not like all of a sudden they learned that, it was not there. We knew that at the time. It was obvious. But he was willing to take 10 years of a man's life away just to cover Donald Trump's lie. This is the Attorney General of the United States, the person most responsible for protecting our constitutional rights and for protecting the rule of law in the United States, just tore it up and threw it away. There's no way. Just the David Hearn thing, that should have been disqualifying all by itself. And it's not unique. It's not the only person where that's happening. Number 3, he is violating the constitutional right to free speech. He is literally prosecuting people and threatening people for social media posts. He wants to send James Comey to prison for posting a picture of seashells. And it's not just, that he did that. The moment that picture was taken, they were talking about it on or posted. They were already talking about that on Air Force One before James Comey even got in his car and started driving home with his wife. And by the time they were driving home with his wife, they were being tracked. They were being tracked by the Secret Service. Before they even got home. All right. So that's like a violation of the First Amendment. That's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. That's a violation of the Fifth Amendment. He was like, he's prosecuting people for things that aren't crimes, and he's just trampling the Constitution, and he's violating the rights to free speech. Number 4, he exposed the Epstein victims in the Epstein files. That alone, that right there, you're talking about a person we're entrusting with things like the Epstein files, right? And he exposed nude pictures of little girls that were supposed to be redacted and protected. And number 5, he protected the Epstein conspirators in the files. How could we saw nude pictures of the girls who were victims, but we didn't see the names of the people who made them victims? Where are they, Todd? If we're going to entrust you with enforcing the laws of the United States, are we only going to, have them enforced if they're by people that aren't members of the Epstein class? Or if they're not broken? Because it sure looks like if you have enough money to give to Donald Trump, you can just break laws, whatever laws you want. And you're fine with that. Because you work for Donald Trump, not the United States. So if Donald Trump tells you, hey, yeah, just release the pictures of the little girls, not the names of the perpetrators, then you will do that. That should be disqualifying. Number 6, there's all this talk about the slush fund and whether or not it was still active. The fact that he signed it in the first place, he, as Donald Trump's personal attorney, did not recuse himself from that whole thing. He was Donald Trump's attorney. And as Donald Trump's attorney, he represented the United States ostensibly against Donald Trump. How is that not a conflict of interest? And then he agreed to let Donald Trump sue Donald Trump to give $1.6 billion to the people that tried to overthrow the country on behalf of Donald Trump, and then give Donald Trump blanket immunity for tax evasion and the family of Donald Trump evasion for tax evasion. How is that not disqualifying? I don't care whether, I do care that the thing is not dead. But the fact that he was willing to sign it off in the first place is indicative of what he will do, not just of what he has done. Right? How can we trust that anything he does going forward is not going to be in the best interest of Donald Trump over the best interest of the United States? Because that bell has been rung. Like, if there is a guy in my neighborhood and we haven't proven that he's a cat killer, but every time a cat comes around him, that cat disappears. There's been 11 cats that have disappeared when this guy was around. I'm not going to entrust that guy with the care of my cat. I don't need proof that he is a cat killer. I have enough suspicions that I'm not going to entrust him with my cat. In this analogy, Todd Blanche is the cat killer. There is enough history of him compromising the integrity of the Department of Justice and enough history of him protecting the interests of Donald Trump that I am not going to entrust him with protecting the interest of the United States over Donald Trump. And that's why number 1 on this list was he still considers himself Trump's personal attorney. That to him is still the actual job he is doing. Number 7, he thinks the president is above the law. This is something you can see it just in the tax evasion protection. Not only does he put himself in a position where he thinks where he's thinks the president is above the law, he's willing to use his office to protect the president from the law that he is supposed to be enforcing. And then number 8, and this is not by no means the least important, but he wants to ban abortion across the country. So much for states' rights. Todd Blanche is a horrible, horrible person. And he has no business being the Attorney General of the United States. So that is, I needed to get that off my chest. So I'm going to go back to the chat now. I was looking at some notes. Kelly, we can't let them cut the price of bananas. I mean, I think about how much that would cut the dividends. And yeah, exactly. He's going back. This was from the Panama discussion, or the Guatemala discussion. But for some reason, Apple autocorrect likes autocorrecting properly written words. I've told you about my Bluetooth idea. Like, I want to get a Bluetooth app for my phone, for your phone. And It's like you can connect it to your car, and then it'll like diagnose what's wrong with your car for you, and then it'll give you the wrong diagnosis, and it's going to be called autocorrect. And if one company cuts their dividends, then all the companies are going to cut their dividends. It would be a national catastrophe at the biggest scale we've ever seen. Reuters released an hour ago the U.S. has used virtually all of its precision strike missiles during the Iran and the war. If we have a conflict with anyone else, there's no accuracy now. And yeah, I mean, that's just another thing, right? Right now, America is less safe than it has been in I don't know how long. We're less safe. We're less safe because we don't have the ability to strike back. We're less safe because we have a president of the United States that doesn't even care that our enemies are trying to commit terrorist attacks on our water supply, because he's too worried about gluing gold-plated things on things. We have a secretary of war, whatever that's supposed to mean, who is more impressed with how many push-ups he can do and fire black people for being black and women for being women, trans people for being trans, than people for doing their jobs. Now he's like crowdsourcing solutions to the Iran war. Did you hear about that? He's like sends out anybody got an idea how we can win this? Well, gee, if you hadn't fired everybody that knew, maybe you wouldn't be, trying to crowdsource. Idiot. The scary thing is that Todd Blanche is the third. By the way, the idiot just obviously I was referring to Keg's breath, not Dusty. The scary thing is that Todd Blanche is the third pick for this job now, right? I don't know how you get worse than that, but I'm sure he can find a way. You can make a crime out of anything. I remember that, there's that old saying that you can indict a ham sandwich, but Pam Bondi tried to indict the guy for throwing a ham sandwich, and she couldn't do that. Hey, FBI, CIA, Secret Service, if you're listening, watching GFY, I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up at my house someday. Have you seen all the states' rights Republicans are talking about, how blue states shouldn't be allowed to not help ICE, but the criminal thugs they are? Yeah. And that's almost trite at this point. I'm convinced none of the people who have power over this do any research for their job. You would think, some of these things you would think are pretty relevant, to the right. Like the people that lost their wigs over the fact that Donald Trump lost his social media accounts and talked about his constitutional right to free speech. Where are they now? There's no constitutional right to a Twitter account. The Constitution says that Congress shall pass no law abridging the rights to free speech. Twitter ain't Congress. Twitter's not the government. The First Amendment basically says that the government can't punish you for things you say. But Todd Blanche, as the Attorney General, is overseeing a prosecution of a thing that James Comey didn't even say. They're saying he was making a threat. That's not a threat. 8647 is not a threat. It's a wish. And it's not a death threat. 86, they're saying 86 can be used by the mafia to mean, but where did the mafia get 86 from? They didn't invent it. They borrowed it from another place, which is that when you get rid of a menu item in a restaurant. And they had 8646 t-shirts selling on eBay and selling on Amazon. But Joe Biden wasn't prosecuting people for selling those shirts or buying those shirts. And I'm pretty sure, as the former director of the FBI, if James Comey really wanted to have Donald Trump taken out, his main way of doing it, he's going to have connection. He's going to have a little more understanding of how things work than posting a picture on Instagram. So obviously that's not what he wanted to do. But you got this guy, Attorney General, that is like he's got no problems prosecuting people for posting things on social media. And, you took away Donald Trump's constitutional rights when you banned him from Twitter. Where are you now? Where are you, Elon? Elon, why aren't you standing up for James Comey? Go on, tell me, Elon, you gutless sack of racism. Explain it to me. Chicago police are not supposed to help us. This is like, it's a literal constitutional thing. You can't commandeer the U.S. police, the local police. It's called an unfunded mandate. You're not allowed to tell the city what they can do with their police and what they have to do with their police. That's a whole part of the whole Constitution, with state laws versus federal law, or state government versus federal government. Your parents took too much LSD. I don't know if they ever took LSD at all, but I'm not sure how that's relevant to anything. If you have any specific complaints, if you have anything where I'm wrong, then go ahead. But I think your attack on my parents taking LSD is a confession that you can't actually address anything I say. So you're just another MAGA troll that just gets on here and just insults people instead of trying to engage in conversation, because you know if you engage in conversation, you will lose. I bet you, as soon as there is a Democratic Congress, if they win, which I really hope they do, they will blame the depleted munition stock on Congress refusing to give them the money. Yep, and there, you know what else is the Medicaid cuts go in next year. They go in effect next year, right after the Democratic Congress takes over. So then the Republicans are going to just blame the closings on the Democrats. They knew this when they passed it. That's why they arranged it that way. Dude, it's spelled C-O-M-M-I-E. If you're going to call me a commie, at least spell it right. You're just lazy at this point. The latest secret military operation, the least secret military operation in history. Yes, so yeah, if you want to mute somebody in chat, just send me some money. I love this. This is Brett's idea. Want to mute somebody in chat? Send Kelly $5 for 5 minutes, $10 for 10 minutes, $25 for 24 hours, because you get a special rate. You get actually to pay me more money per minute that way, and $100 to ban forever. Good idea, Brett. Austin, Texas. Do you think Trump used the reflecting pool? Another test of his power. I don't know what the test would be. I think that Donald Trump, I think that he just does what he does, and he just wanted to do this without consulting anybody. He thought it would look cool, and so I think he is like like they don't want him actually getting involved in anything that's real, and so they're like, here, Donald, why don't you redesign the DC? And then so he's just doing that. He's just like an old coot that doesn't know what he's doing, and they're trying to put him like somewhere where he's can feel like he's doing something important. And so he's like, I'm going to replace the Washington Lincoln Memorial Pool and paint it blue, and then it'll all be pretty. And so then he's like, he goes and he gets one of his cronies to do it, and then his crony does a really bad job, and so then he's like, oh, this is so bad. And he's got to go and find somebody to blame, and then, oh, that guy stuck his hand in the water. And so then they prosecute him. He's just a coot. He's just a coot. He's an old coot. That they're just trying to stay out of the way, but he's a reckless old coot, and so he just ends up causing problems everywhere he goes and everything he does. I remember when the GOP used to call feds jackbooted thugs back in the day. Yeah, well, that was before they liked jackbooted thugs. Now they like they're bootlickers. They went from that to the just bootlickers really fast. Get out of here isn't a death threat. I've gotten actual death threats. I had somebody send me a message on my phone, like an actual text message, not a DM or something, that said, I'm on my way over to cut your throat and rape your wife. And they, so yeah, they never showed up. I told them my 85-pound dog would have fun eating them, and they never showed up. They were never for free speech. They just claimed to be when they wanted the freedom to lie. Yes, their freedom of their speech. If I want to have disinformation, by Jove, I will disinform. Free speech to the right is freedom to spread propaganda and misinformation. And they're still spreading the same nonsense. They just run laps around L's like nobody's business. They're like, yeah. And vaccines don't work, right? And where's your mask? And it's like, yeah, masks saved lives, and so did vaccines, idiot. Trump was kicked off Twitter for spreading misinformation. I still wish not just that, he started a riot and tried to overthrow the country with his Twitter account. Remember the whole thing on January 6th. The linchpin was his tweet about Pence. He tried to overthrow the country with a tweet. So yeah, he got kicked off of Twitter. Poor little baby. Gotta go. Night. Good night. Same for the left. What do you mean same for the left? Why is it always got to be same for the left? What? Gary, what does that mean? What is the same for the left, Gary? MAGA sucks because it only takes money to make munitions. Shake my head. We have to produce them. It took years to make our stockpiles. Right. And you have people that sit there and say, oh, well, it's Joe Biden's fault because he sent all the munitions to Ukraine. And it's like, okay, first of all, they were different munitions. Second, we've had like 2 years to replace them. Third, they were the money that we were that we were approving was to replenish the stockpile. And so that that was all taken care of in time. And fourthly, if we were out of munitions, why did Donald Trump start a war? We destabilized the Middle East. We stole Venezuela's oil. Now he's bragging about how much money we've made off of the stolen oil. We don't know where. He won't say where it went, but he'll tell you how much. MAGA has only 3 moves, remember? Lie, change the subject, insult the people with the facts, never be able to debate because they live in a delusional world of lies. And I don't even know if they realize they're doing it. Like they'll just shift, they'll say, what about this? And then you'll say, what about it? And then you'll point out where their argument is wrong. And then they'll just they'll just be like libtard, or they'll TDS, or else they'll just, well, what about this? And they'll just move to the subject as though you had never at all tried to even have another conversation. We destabilize the Middle East to our own detriment, started an illegal war, and that's causing world markets to tumble, put a blockade top of an existing blockade, which is self-sabotage. And it's not even like we're anywhere near a solution. Like Donald Trump says, oh, we're going to have negotiations. And it's like, okay, how come Oman is saying we're not? How come Iran is saying you're not? How come all the countries we are allegedly talking to are saying that you're not talking to them? And I think of it like, like you get the junior high trio of girls, and you got Sally, Veronica, and Betty, right? And Sally is mad at Betty. And so Sally tells Veronica that Betty did this and this and this. And then Betty tells Veronica, Sally did this and this and this. And so they both complain to Veronica about why the other one is bad. And then you say, well, they're talking through Veronica. No, they're not. They're just both telling Veronica what their side is. There's no communication between the two of them. That's what's going on with Iran and the U.S. right now. They're just both sitting there whining to Oman and Qatar. By the way, I got a joke for you. Which country never likes to wait in line? Qatar. There's your joke for today. There's your pun for the pun show. Didn't I just have a story last week about the artillery plant in Texas that still hasn't made a single shell? I did not know. Man, they're a shell of what they used to be. The guy saying the same for the left is saying that because he really doesn't know what the truth is. That's one of their cop-outs, right? Like just, well, you know that Trump is wrong when one of their go-tos is, well, the left does the same thing. Okay, when the left does the same thing, is the left wrong? Well, why didn't Joe Biden release the files? And it's like, it's not like there's not enough, there is an incredibly solid defense for why Joe Biden didn't release the files, starting with he literally released every file he legally could. But also the fact that even if he didn't release all the files he legally could, it doesn't change the fact that there was a law literally written that Trump had to release the files and he didn't release them. And that law did not exist under Biden. Cuba's president said, if we must die, we'll die in the context of fighting America and the embargoes. Other countries are allowed to have pride. I remember when I lived in Italy, I had a friend, Pino. One day we're sitting out to dinner. He's like, Kelly, can I ask you a question? I was like, sure. He says, why do Americans think that they're the only ones allowed to love their country? And that was a great question. The people in the cult actually think facts are fake news because Trump told them that. You need to make a live debate and invite the MAGA in the chat. There's a link in the description section. If anybody wants to, pop on, they're free to. I mean, I just asked, that there be a couple of things. One, I noticed MAGA has a really, really terrible habit that they will ask somebody, they'll gish gallop a bunch of loaded questions and not let you answer them. So there's just you have to let me talk when you ask a question, and you have to listen, and then you have to actually respond to what I said. And I have to do the same thing with you. I have to listen to what you have to say, and I have to respond to what you said. That's the only rules, and just a mutual respect. But if you come on here and you start just yelling over me, and things have to be fact-based. You can't just say things and assume that they're true. And if there's something where we differ on whether or not it's true, I'll open up chat and we'll look it up. Interesting, in 2020, Trump and his allies tried to undermine the election by installing fake electors, 84 to be exact. They were convicted. Trump pardoned them. People forget about that. Yeah, it's not like the idea that Donald Trump tried to overthrow the vote or overturn the election. That is not an opinion. That is a fact. That's literally what happened. It was an insurrection. Stop saying it wasn't an insurrection. They tried to change the results of the election. And 81 million people did vote for Joe Biden. And I get so tired of being told that, oh, it was illegals, or, they were fake votes, or it was rigged, or whatever. No, we voted for him. You took away our votes. When you tried to overthrow the election, you took away our votes. You took away our country. The only one that tried to steal the country was Donald Trump. That was the steal. And he's sitting there trying to act like these people that did it on his behalf deserve financial rewards because they were absolutely deservedly punished for trying to overthrow the country. I have no sympathy for them. They don't deserve it. They tried to steal my country. They tried to steal my vote. You don't get to be the law and order president and then give people money for breaking the law, the most egregious group crime in the history of the country. I'm so tired of that rhetoric. Oh, they didn't try to, it wasn't an insurrection. Yes, it was. It was absolutely an insurrection. And I don't care how many guns they had or how many weapons or, it might have been a stupid insurrection, but it was still an insurrection. Being stupid and MAGA goes together like being stupid and wearing a MAGA hat. $469 million ammunition plant in Mesquite, Texas. Hasn't made a single shell. Wow. I appreciate your erudite commentary. Thank you, Mr. Mundray. Veronica was hotter. There was no Sally though. So I don't, but yeah, I was more of a Betty person. Except in the TV show, Veronica was hotter. But in the cartoons, I always thought Betty was hotter. In the comics, we voted for, and by the way, the comics and the TV show were nothing at all alike. We voted for Joe Biden while Trump was still in office. How is there cheating? I really can't tolerate MAGA. And it's like, I am so tired of hearing about how they feel. They tried to steal our votes. I don't care how they feel. You insolent little children lost an election and you had a hissy fit and tried to overthrow the country. Then you pouted and yelled, "Let's go, Brandon," for the next 4 years while Joe Biden rescued the just damage that Donald Trump had done to this country. He wasn't perfect, but he was a good president. He was a good president, and he saved the country. When he inherited the country, we were in the middle of the worst pandemic in a century. We had the largest financial crisis since 2008. We had the most civil unrest in 60 years since the civil riots in the 60s, all under Trump's watch. And Trump would sit there and show all the stuff that was happening and say, this is Biden's America, threatening that what was happening while he was president was going to happen if Joe Biden became president. Then Joe Biden became president, and all that stuff went away. And then Donald Trump got elected and said, oh, we're never going to forget what Joe Biden did to this country. You mean saved it? You're right. I'm never going to forget that. And MAGA's never going to know it because they're so deep in denial that absolute abject reality is like completely inconsequential to them. You need more rules than that to debate MAGA. You have to make it a rule that they are not allowed to say something as if it is a fact without waiting it to be fact checked. Right. So in cases like that, that's why I was saying, have Chat GPT be the ref, right? And I can pull it up and if there's a dispute of facts, then we can look it up and we'll see. And I've done it before on the show and I've learned things that I didn't know. But I would much rather be proven wrong than still be wrong. If I'm wrong about something and you prove me wrong, then I will be grateful for it. But if you just say I'm wrong, that doesn't mean I am. People are extremely bad with deflecting about what ism, though, like MAGA does it. Yet I find a lot of people get into yes man circle jerks because they think any question is about what ism. Yeah. I think we like it's too easy to get caught up into what to label something instead of just talking about the thing, right? I think that's what, like, oh, that's communism, or is that socialism, or what about Democrats? You know, like all that is like, okay, I don't care what you call it. I just want universal health care. People are extremely bad. Okay, all right, sorry, I just read that. They're in the process of doing everything they can to destroy democracy while MAGA supports it. What is wrong with MAGA? I'll never, ever forgive anyone who voted for this. I don't know what to say or what to do anymore. I'm so frustrated. It's like every day, and then it's like the orange pile of poop is on the TV, sitting there just going on and on, saying stupid stuff every day. Let's go tell him. Somebody says, tell him. Thank you, Ham. Did I go ham on them? Let's go progressive. Michigan is going for Adel El Said. And like I mentioned this at the beginning, some of you weren't here at the beginning, and I just want to say, vote blue no matter who. Remember how we said that in 2024 when Kamala Harris was running, and the people, the progressives, were saying that, oh, I don't know if I want to show up and vote for her because, you know, whatever. Okay, if you ever said vote blue no matter who, then you vote blue no matter who. You don't get to decide, oh, vote blue no matter who, unless it matters who. Like then your whole vote blue no matter who never made any sense. If you're not willing to vote blue no matter who when your guy loses, never say it at all. All right? This is an existential threat. Donald Trump is an existential threat to this country. And the only way he is going to be stopped from doing even more damage to it, killing more people in America, around the world, starting more wars, causing more economic catastrophes, causing more death and disease. I mean, the man is like the all the apocalypses in Revelation wrapped up in one orange vile bag of fermenting poop. He's just vile. And the only thing stopping him is a Democratic Senate and a Democratic Congress. And he's going to invite 2 more Supreme Court justices that are just as demented and evil as Brett Kavanaugh if we don't have a Democratic Senate. Like, just vote blue. I don't care who it is. Vote blue. Because the number one priority is making sure we don't have a 9-3 Supreme Court for the next 50 years. Vote for whoever you want in the primary, but vote for whoever wins the primary, Michigan. Vote for whoever wins the primary, Ohio. Texas, we already know. Like some of these states, we already know. Vote for that guy in Maine. He's awesome. Toby guy. I love him. He's I don't know if anybody can be more mainstream than that guy. That guy is awesome. You just listen to him talk. You're like, yeah, that guy is from Maine. That guy is so Maine, he could be from Canada. Like, he is Maine. All right. Just vote blue, no matter who. We need to win the Senate. When Biden was president, everyone could relax and nobody had to watch a reality show of crime we didn't. It was like, oh, I could wake up in the middle of the night and then go back to sleep, not like check to see if another war had started while I slept. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene is off the Trump train, people. Yeah, because she was like the whole thing that got her into politics was the pedophilia thing. Like, she bought into the whole QAnon pedophilia stuff. And then it turns out that the real pedophile threat, the one that was really the deep state covering up the pedophiles, was Donald Trump. And so they called her in. They said, hey, give us a free pass on the whole pedophilia thing. And she's like, nope. And then they basically ran her out of the party because she wouldn't cover up for the pedophiles. But that was her line. Like, she actually really thought pedophilia was wrong. And I agree with her on that. That's like the only thing that I agree with her on. But at least she had the courage to stick to her guns. And I give her credit for that. Every single one of those Republicans who sat there and voted for a guy that's attorney general who exposed the victims while covering up for the rapist, the child rapist that paid Jeffrey Epstein for the privilege of raping children. They voted for that man to be the attorney general. What a bunch of gutless, sackless, worthless, useless, pathetic, weak, lily-livered, spineless morons. I can't. Every single Republican senator that voted for that should never, ever, ever be voted into office again. And at least 2 of them won't be. I remember when Biden was president, every day you would turn on the news and hear about a new gift he gave to the middle class. Okay. Remember the infrastructure plan, the American Rescue Plan? Yeah, like all those things that actually helped America, that brought jobs. Whoops. My wife just dropped something in the kitchen. Everything okay in there? What broke? Yeah, my wife just broke something in the kitchen. AIPAC sent 30 to 60 million against Abdul, but 30 to 1 in spending. And you know what? I like you're gonna see all of this money spent by AIPAC. You're gonna see all this money spent by the tech billionaires. And what happened in Michigan is all of that was a reminder of, okay, this is who's paying for this congressman, right? And that's why he's winning. I think that we're going to see a different thing here where the funding is actually going to work against people. I'm seeing all these ads in Texas about how wonderful AI is and how wonderful data centers are, and everybody in Texas hates those. And so when you see these ads and tying AIs to Paxson and trying to make it sound like there's these great things, yeah, that's just spending money. James Talarico could run those ads. Anyway, I was thinking about this. You know who the only person in Texas that likes Ken Paxton is Ted Cruz. And the only reason Ted Cruz likes Ken Paxton is because Ken Paxton is the only person that keeps Ted Cruz from being the most despised person in Texas. Like, that's how bad Ken Paxton is. Ken Paxton is so bad that he's worse than Ted Cruz. And I don't know how much more insulting you can get than that. Biden lowered the insulin prices. Biden used his pardon power to pardon everyone in federal prison who had marijuana charges, not narco terrorists who paid him millions of dollars. Yep. And Republicans complained about Biden pardoning the nonviolent marijuana offenses and then defended Donald Trump for pardoning people that trafficked or that laundered money for human traffickers and cartel leaders. No, I think not. Vote for the candidate that takes no AIPAC or, well, you know what, dude, it's not like there's always a third alternative. You can either, you think that AIPAC isn't going to be happy with the Republican, right? It's not just about AIPAC. It's right now there's other things that happen. Okay. There's more in the world than just AIPAC. And I admit, and I agree with you that what is going on in Israel and Gaza is really, really terrible. But it is not the only really, really terrible thing that's happening. So don't be so like with this false dichotomy where it's either AIPAC or no AIPAC. No AIPAC is not a solution in some places. It's not a choice. It's not an option. It's AIPAC plus all the other evil, or AIPAC and not all the other evil. So if you just get into that narrow-minded frame of thinking, then you're just supporting all the other evil that's not AIPAC. You're like, okay, I'm okay with all the other evil that happens as long as you don't take money from AIPAC. Now they're going to confirm Blanche, the final main. I went through Todd Blanche, It's just disgusting that this man is going to be. No person in American history has been a worse AG nominee, much less AG than him. I'm with you on that. Amen. Troy Jackson. Yeah, Troy Jackson. Troy Jackson is awesome. I like that guy. That guy is the least cool person ever, but he is so cool. Like, he is just like, man, I could just sit there. Can you just talk to me about logging for a while, dude? Because I know if you were to talk to me about logging, it would become interesting because you know what you're talking about. That guy is like, he is a real, actual, labor guy. I heard somebody describe him as he is what Planter pretended to be. Vote for those that are America, and Americans vote for those that are for the American working man, not the illegal aliens. Would you explain to me who is for illegal aliens coming to destroy America? Because that to me just sounds like a bunch of racist nonsense. He used to be a Republican, did he? He actually, I heard an interview with him where he's talking about, well, I looked into some of these things. I can't do his accent, but he has like this kind of really Canadian Maine accent thing, and he looked into things and he learned things and then he changed his mind. And I think that is a sign of somebody that I want in a leader, is somebody that's flexible and willing to learn things and absorb new information and say, hey, I was wrong. So he used to be pro-life. Now he's not. He learned, and he said now he's pro-choice. And he described that. He's like, I looked into it and I learned things. And so now I changed my mind. Little Leaf is providing the point of MAGA not being able to articulate intellectually, just stupid. Yep. What has Trump done for his newly formed party called MAGA? Well, depends on which ones you're talking about. He's given his tech bros lots of money. He's had a lot of Trumpy beans. He sold a lot of Trumpy beans. I remember the 200% increase in money creation under the Biden administration. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. Are you talking about how they printed more cash to save the banking industry? You do know, like, people just like say stuff. All right. Yes, there was more cash printed. I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but there was more cash printed because there was a run on banks that threatened, like, you have to have actual cash on hand for people that want to withdraw. And there were a couple of banks that were in trouble. And so they printed off more money so that there could be actual cash in those banks so that people wanted to come and get cash. It wouldn't cause the banks to collapse. It didn't change how much actual money was in America. It just changed how much currency was in America. The amount of currency doesn't affect. We've only got like 10% of our economy is like cash backed. So he just printed some extra money to have in the bank so that people wanted to get cash, they could. Didn't change how much currency was there. Like, people, oh, that's what caused all the inflation. And it's like such a dumb thing to say because it happened after the inflation. I voted for Biden, but it should have been Bernie for his second term. Whatever you do, my advice, don't privatize utilities. It doesn't work. I wish we would make them more public. I wish public utilities would be free. Like, I think electricity should be free. I think oil should be free. And by free, I mean taxpayer funded. I think that certain things should just be taxpayer funded. I think that if I want my taxes to pay for something, that is part of my right as an American citizen, is that I should be able to vote for those things. I'd rather have my money fund oil for somebody, a poor person's house in Boston, than having oil funded by the, to supplement the oil industry that's already making record profits and price gouging. Interesting that a standing president can profit off the presidency, just billions of dollars. And this is like, now he doesn't want to pay taxes on it. And you got an attorney general that's saying, yeah, not only does he not have to pay taxes, we're not even allowed to investigate it. I broke the hell out of my favorite iridescent mug, but then found a Chicago Metropolitan map cup. Fate works. Right now, AIPAC and other foreign interests are the biggest dividers in the country. And I think, like, I'm not a fan of AIPAC, but I think that if AIPAC becomes like a single voter issue, then you're just giving everything else to Trump. You're giving Trump everything he wants. Everything he wants. You're just giving him everything he wants, because you're just not going to have enough senators that aren't taking any money from AIPAC. I think there's all kinds of things we need to do for funding reform and like, but this is about playing chess. All right. There is no third alternative. If both candidates are taking money from AIPAC, and then what are you going to do? Just let Trump have his way? Michigan is voting for, yeah. If Stevens wins, vote for Stevens. If the other guy wins, El Sayed wins, vote for El Sayed. Of the two, I like him better. But I would vote for a can of Spam over Ken Paxton. Like a can of Spam that has a vote. Because the vote matters more than the money from AIPAC. Of course, AIPAC's not going to fund a can of Spam, but absolutely not. Alpaca is just one of the problems. And Citizens United. Yeah, well, Citizens United is definitely a huge part of the problem. That's not my name. What, logging? Damn autocorrect. Stupid autocorrect. We got so many. And yeah, Mr. Sayed is up against 3 other AIPAC candidates. And they're I mean, like, to his credit, they're outspending him like 15-1, and he's way ahead. Ooh, racist. You know, racist blaming is like what? Like, you can't blame racism. Like, when did it become a moratorium on calling racists racist? Like, if you're saying racist stuff, I'm going to call you a racist. If you don't want to be called a racist, don't make racist arguments. It's that simple. Or every American should support their union for their industry. And yeah, well, wish we still had unions. And fight to get the draconian restrictions on trade unions in America lifted. I still like and support Troy Jackson. I like Troy Jackson. I like Troy Jackson better than Plattner. I would have definitely had to like hold my. I'm not in Maine, and I would have had to like hold my nose and vote for Plattner. I would happily vote for Jackson, but because this is just one of those things where I'm like, you're talking about the next 40 years of the Supreme Court. You're not just talking about 6 years of a senator or whatever. Like, just you're going to be destroying millions and hundreds of millions of lives if the Senate does not go blue. Hundreds of millions of people for generations will suffer because I couldn't vote for somebody that voted for that took money from AIPAC. Yeah, well, tell that to the millions of people that are going to die. You don't get to sit there and like effectively through complacency kill millions of people and then pretend you're taking the moral high ground. If you can stop a fire and you don't stop the fire, you didn't start the fire, but you're still culpable for it perpetuating. And John, he can't be prosecuted for that, as the president has legal immunity for all official acts. I get what you're saying. The creation of money is called inflation. No, that's not called inflation. And no, that is not what, what you said is something you just made up. That is not what causes, that's not what inflation is. And that is not what is called inflation. And the creation of money, Joe, stupidity doesn't have a place on my channel. And that's just stupidity. FCC to ban robot vacuum cleaners from China. They did Not just vacuums. How does it work by its size? They brand practically everything with a motor from China. Did you see the last week tonight where there's like the RoboCop? It's like an actual robot cop um, that like rolls around. It's like R2D2 or something. It looks like R2D2 and like it got tipped over. Anyway, last week tonight, without John Oliver, I don't know if I could have made it these last 10 years. Okay. Hey, Kitty, how you doing? How is it any of this YouTube stuff contributing to my honor and/or? I don't care. Go away then. Nobody told you to come here. I don't mind paying the cost of utilities, and then if they want to make profits, they must dedicate all profits to capital investment rather than executive bonuses. I just hate seeing people lose their heat in the middle of winter because they don't have money. Like, I don't think people should die because they didn't have money. I don't think children should die because their parents ran out of money. I don't think senior citizens should die because they ran out of money. And you have people literally freeze to death in the middle of winter because they had their heat cut off. That should not happen in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. That's how can that not be something everybody has a moral issue with? Steven's got so much APAC money, it's breaking records. Yeah, it's not like Stevens is, or not Steve. She's gonna lose anyway. So I ordered an extra all-in-one inverter just to have an extra one on hand, and all of that should be through a public company owned by the government to give the government actual powers to enforce these rules. I agree. I am afraid that flock cameras will evolve with listening to. Yeah, watch the John Oliver. He talks about the flock cameras a lot, and it's like, just go flock yourselves. That's what I want to tell them. I don't care, Ronald. My channel is not called the acknowledge Ronald Aaron Lopez channel. It's called the Pun Show. I see Mexican folk working for ICE. In fact, you can be racist as minorities to other minorities. Yes. You can. The most racist man on the Supreme Court is the black man. I have to ask everyone not to give up their MAGA relatives. Just send them to YouTube clips of reality, and it gets in their brains just like the fake news. Remember way back in the day when we worried about Big Brother? Now we have the big orange blob fascists in the whole regime. It's like big George Orwell, and it's so funny when MAGA quotes George Orwell, like to own the libs, and it's like, do you have any cognizance at all of what is going on in the world around you? My mic isn't working at all. I think everybody else is hearing me. Maybe it's your speakers. Mic's cutting out. Oh, okay. And that's, huh? Can you hear me now? I don't know what to. Hang on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I don't know what's going on. It's the mute button. Ah, all right. So we're gonna try this again. Ah, it's cut off again. Hang on. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I don't. Hang on. Let me see something. Testing 1 2 3 4. Testing. Okay. It looks like. Let me try. Is that working better? It's showing on my thing. Okay. So I've been wanting to like get into like I wanted to start closing the show by talking about food. And I hate saying anything that RFK Jr. would agree with, but I've decided I want to start trying to play with organ meat because one thing I've been trying to do is figure out how to reduce the cost of food while eating nutritionally. And so yesterday I took a leap and I made something with chicken gizzards. And this is the meal I made. And it's a chicken gizzard kind of stew. I call it gizzard and grain stew. And I slow cooked the chicken gizzards for about 10 hours. And then I added, with along with some mirepoix and some chicken broth. And then with about an hour to go, I added some sprouted grain that I sprouted. I had a mix of barley, hard red wheat, hard white wheat, some spelt, like just like 8 or 9 different grains, and some sprouted brown rice. And I threw that in there along with some dried mushrooms. One thing I like to do is when I go to the store and I see, mushrooms on sale, they'll have them on sale for 50% off. So I buy them, take them home, and throw them in the food dehydrator. And then I dry them out because it's like super cheap mushrooms. And dehydrated mushrooms are actually really good when you reconstitute them. So I threw the mushrooms in there and I made this gizzard stew. And if you've never had gizzards, they taste like dark meat, but there's almost no fat. And if you don't even I didn't even know what gizzards were, so I looked it up, and gizzards are chicken teeth. And they're like chickens don't have teeth, but they have these organs called gizzards, which are like this really, really hard, smooth muscle. And it's like a circular muscle. And so, and then that's how the chickens chew. I never knew this. I learned something new. And that's what gizzards are. And because they're these really hard muscles, like Walter says, 10 hours, are you cooking a candle? Cooking on a candle? No, that was a slow cooker. And you have to cook them really slow because basically all they are is this really hard muscle. And so you have to soften them up. And then when they get them, they hold their texture better than like typical chicken. Because it doesn't like all start falling apart because the muscular structure is round. And so it was really good. This was like a genuinely enjoyable food. This was I think I probably got 10 servings out of that. The whole pot cost me like $5. The chicken gizzards are like $1 a pound. And they're all meat. It's just 100% meat. There's no fat, there's nothing. So and you just have to throw them in the slow cooker for like 10 hours. Just throw everything in the slow cooker for 10 hours. Then when there's like an hour left, just throw in your grains. That's all you have to do. It takes like 5 minutes worth of work. And this is like really, really high in nutrition. It's extreme, like very, very healthy. There's no fat in this meal. There's lots of protein, all kinds of the organs have like a lot more magnesium and iron and stuff like that. So it's like really high in minerals and vitamins. So anyway, that's that beautiful bread there. That's some of my homemade bread that I make, and excellent sopping bread. So Abdul is absolutely amazing for a sentence. I'm waiting. I voted for him against and my governor back in 2018. We stole Venezuela oil, and their president and POTUS and his family are siphoning Venezuela's oil wealth to the tune of $13 billion, and nobody knows where that money went to. It's just so embarrassing that that is happening, and we're not talking about it. Like, we just acted like, oh, that's just another day. Gizzards are birds' crops, where they, yep, that's how they basically chew. All right, so I don't know what's going on with my mic. I don't know if it might be my internet connection. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off now. If you hear me, apparently my mic is shaky again. So, just gonna type logging off here. And if you can hear me, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.